You're listening to On the Margins with me, Dan O'Sullivan.
And me, Eamon Stack-Mulvihill.
In this podcast, we will examine sites of education which are off the beaten track, non-traditional, non-typical, but diverse and exceptional, looking at learners who are often marginalised and ignored. So we're delighted to be joined in studio here today by Eoghan O'Byrne. Eoghan is principal of St Mary's National School in Kings Island in Limerick, and he's also a student here in UL on the CWEL programme?
I'm not doing a so I'm doing a postgraduate diploma in community engagement, and that ties in with the Masters of Professional Practice as well.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
I think I'm nearly finished this stage, I can really say.
Have you to do a thesis?
No thesis. That's the beauty of the Master of Professional Practice. So they found that was a huge barrier to people, is completing a thesis, and it was very off-putting for people doing a Masters. So this is a way of kind of acknowledging and recognising prior learning without the big thesis, which I taught. Then you have to do a portfolio, and it turns out it's the same size as a thesis anyway. So all in all, we've a thesis done, I'd say, in fairness.
Eoghan, you are one of these people that turns up everywhere. So I met you many years ago. I don't know, was it first that I met you in Derrynagane or Tom Clifford Park, but it was rugby related anyway. And then many years later, I suppose that's when I found out you were a school principal. I walked into the boardroom in Engage in Education. There you were. I found out you were on the board of the Bedford Row project. You just kind of turn up everywhere. So I suppose
I'll take that as a positive. Yes.
yeah. You turn up. You turn up. It's strange.
You make me sound like a politician.
Well, yeah, you know, you might run for mayor yet, and you turn up. You turn up in strange parts of the ruck as well. Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your own journey into education, and maybe how it kind of led to becoming a principal.
Yeah, I suppose there's a good strong educational background in the family. I always like to get into links, I suppose. I went to primary school up in Scully and Corbally, which was only around the corner from me. Then went into secondary school in St Munchin's College, and straight away after that, I suppose I went into business studies with German out in UL, and I majored in insurance and risk management. I suppose far afield from a school principal, yeah. But my mum was a teacher, I suppose, and there's a strong educational background within the family. So I came out and I did 2 years in the kind of private industry working in insurance and sales. I was up in Dublin then. I think I changed over roads. I was up in Shannon for 18 months and then went up to Dublin, and the job was completely unrelated, I suppose, to the role I applied for. Mm-hmm. So I gave it a whopping 3 days, packed the bags in, back down to Limerick. I always had teaching in the background, that was always in my mind, is what I'd say. I think 3 days later, after leaving Dublin, I applied for the postgrad in education in Hibernia, and I think it was in 2 weeks later I'd been accepted and started the course. So after that, I suppose I qualified. I was in the HDIP in primary education and went back and taught up in South Hill for 3 or 4 years. And then we were in a school called South Hill Junior School, which I'm proud to say I was the one and only male teacher in the school for the duration. So I don't know, did I close it down or did I give it a rejuvenation? I'm not too sure, but we amalgamated then to form Lecaila National School. So I think I was in Lecaila teaching 3rd class for 2 years, and then I've gone the role of homeschool community liaison teacher, which was a 3.5 year whirlwind, I suppose. I think my dad and my mum would always say it's kind of changed my whole perception of life. Mm-hmm. So if anyone doesn't know it, I suppose HSCL stands for Homeschool Community Liaison Teacher. So all DESH schools are assigned a HCL teacher, and their job really is, I suppose, to engage with parents, get an understanding of the needs for parents, and provide as many supports for the parents as possible. Extremely rewarding job. I built absolutely fantastic relationships with parents, and I suppose it shaped me then in my mode, I suppose, to reflect on my own life, and I suppose how good I probably had in that sense. I had the ideal world around that, but you're looking at people come from marginalised backgrounds. Mm-hmm. I suppose a huge amount of stigma attached to them and the areas they come from, and how resilient the people are in those communities as well. So it definitely gave me a broader understanding to, I suppose, to acknowledge what I had growing up. Having a 2-parent family is really, really important, and not only having a 2-parent family, I suppose I had 2 really supportive parents, yeah, that are still alive to this day, thank God. But that it's a huge impact on how far you go in education. Now, as I always say, you do not need 2 supportive parents. If you have one good, strong adult in your life that can guide you down the road of education or further education, it's a massive difference. And I said, a blessing in disguise for me. I always had 2 very supportive parents, and they would have always pushed us down the education route as well. So like all my sisters went to college and stuff like that, and it became the norm in my family. The norm is to get a 3rd level education. Yeah. I suppose one up and on my sisters I'll have a master's degree in a few weeks' time that they don't have, so I'll be on a pedestal on my own. But as I was saying, I was only reflecting on, there's 2 kids in particular I was looking. They didn't attend St Mary's Primary School, which I'm now the principal of. They attended a different school, but their younger sister was in the school as until maybe 2 years ago. And both those girls broke the cycle, and that's about breaking the cycle. Now they didn't go on, and it's not been any dismissed, they didn't go on to third level education, but they finished their LCAs and they were the first girls in their family to ever complete second level education. And for me, that's greater than my masters that I'll get in a few weeks' time. It's really important, those breaking the cycles, and I'm a firm believer in education is the one opportunity to break down these barriers and to break this intergenerational trauma and I suppose unemployment and lack of third level education and second level education plays a huge role, and it's a major cog in the wheel.
Yeah. You're like myself, well, I at least started off doing business in Germany here. You've done quite a diverse amount of roles, and particularly marginalised communities in Limerick. You mentioned South Hill Junior School, it's Slakela now, and you're the principal in St Mary's in the parish.
Yeah, Kings Island.
Kings Island. I had a look online there at St Mary's, and I see you've this Roots of Empathy project. It's different to Narrative 4. I saw this big buster of a young fella. Is it Oisín?
That's Oisín, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole family is involved in the school. Can you tell us a little bit about this Roots of Empathy programme? Yeah,
so Roots of Empathy, it's run in the school in conjunction with our school completion programme. So it's about, I suppose, bringing the baby has actually been born in June, July or August of that year, and they start off in the school in September, so they can be no older than 3 months old. They come in once a month then, so the aim is to show children, I suppose, love, empathy, natural milestones of progression within children, and forming a strong relational bond. And I suppose in seeing the way that parents interact with children is really, really important. Like, we have some phenomenal parents inside our school, and then we have the opposite extreme then as well, I suppose. Not that they're not phenomenal, but there's high levels of trauma and stuff like that. So it's giving the children the opportunity to see about bonds and how important bonds are, and milestones and progression and stuff as well. So it's a great opportunity to see a young boy or girl grow, nurture and develop, and it's just a phenomenal program. I said the wife was a bit sceptical about doing it, but as you probably know of me, like, I'm big into if you do something, you buy into it. Yeah. I think it was really important for them to see my small fella inside school. They could relate to him, Oisín. And again, an interesting part, the program normally lasts for about 9 months. Oisín still come back into the school. He's 2 in July, so we do a few visits every few months, and they've seen huge progression. They've seen him, I suppose, learning to talk now, walking, he's running. They've seen him sit up. But I suppose the very first day he came in, he couldn't even hold his body up. So they've seen the whole resilience and progression of that little boy as well. So it's a really good programme. We run it in third class every year, and it's well supported by a school completion programme inside the school, who are very, very important to us as well.
Is that your only child?
We've 2. So Finn is 5. I was in Lakela and we had Finn, but it's definitely something that I would have said if I'm very outspoken about it. It's a very rewarding programme. It can be, I suppose, a bit intimidating for a young mum to come in, but I think the whole mindset around that is normally, it's obviously not normally, it is always, it's the mum that runs the programme and stuff. So they got to see me come in and step into the programme as well. So myself and my wife would have done it together. I wasn't there committed to all the days, she was, but it was really important to see that family unit was really important, and to see that I am very normal, even though I'm principal of a school. I'm normal, I have kids at home, and that joy, it's great. It's a huge positive, I'd say, inside, and for them to see me engage with the school community was really important for me as well. So when I looked at the website, there was a lot of different programs you had going on in the school. Can you tell us about some of the other ones? I don't know, care to let the cows come on. I suppose we provide, was the big aim, I suppose, is early intervention, and that wraparound support model. And I suppose anyone that studied trauma and trauma informed practice, so it's all about early intervention, and the key is to get into the children in primary education. If you haven't gotten through to the kids in primary education and you haven't instilled a positive belief and I suppose a positive experience of education, that's not going to be nurtured in secondary. So all research shows that primary school plays a vital cog in the development of a child and their experience of school as well. So we provide that wraparound support model. So we're fortunate enough that we've been supported heavily by Limerick City and County Council through the regeneration programme. Fortunately, that's winding down at the moment as well, but that ESA fund, the social intervention fund, has been key in what we've done in the school in the last 5 years. We've been able to provide, I suppose, a wraparound support model that entails a universal approach to breakfast club. So every child in the school is offered breakfast club. They come in at 8:15, and the whole concept around it, it's not about breakfast. I think every parent can afford a bowl of cereal these days. It's the whole social concept. So we don't know what the children have experienced the night before that morning. So they come into us, they get to sit down, have a bit of breakfast, and then there's always a social activity before they come to school. When they're in the school with us then as well, I suppose that model looks like we've therapeutic supports. We have therapeutic supports 5 days a week, so 4 days a week that would be privately funded through music therapy. And then the final day we've an innovative programme run with the Children's Grief Centre. They work with us 16 weeks per year to provide grief counselling for children that have experienced either a separation, loss or a traumatic experience within their lives. I suppose we're one of the first schools in Limerick City to open up a nurture room. So a nurture room is where we have a fully qualified teacher supporting children around empathy, giving them experience of a consistent environment within the school and giving a consistent safe place for them to go to on a daily basis. So it depends on the child. They could access it for maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, and there's some kids that could access it for up to an hour or 2 hours, and they come out for maybe 20 or 30 minute slots. I have an equine programme running there, we have a social farm programme running there as well. We've Junior Achievement Ireland who are celebrating 30 years tomorrow in Newell that I have to go out to. We run a music programme in conjunction with the Irish Chamber Orchestra. We're fortunate enough, as I said, to have the school completion programme working 3 days a week with us. And then as well, forming them community relationships are crucially important as well. So the lads up in the Limerick Youth Service that we work with are phenomenal. So we work with them. Mary Hughes in Empowering Communities. We work with Limerick Island Community Partners who are about to be rebranded as well. And then, as you alluded to before, I suppose we have the Engage in Education programme and a variety of other ones. We're linked in with all third level institutions. I think a credit to all third level institutions, they've really upped their game with regard to the Access Office and the Access programmes. So a group of our 6th class pupils were out here today with the Knowledge for Change programme, and I'll give a quick shout out to Eoghan O'Byrne, who does phenomenal work. But I suppose it's not just the opportunity to come out. A lot of our kids, when they come out to UL, if they've never been here before, they associate UL with the swimming pool and the AstroTurf. Mm-hmm. So they don't actually associate college with education. They associate it with the sporting facility. So it's really important to give them ample opportunity to come out to third levels and experience and say, like, this is very much achievable. And I know this in our third level attainment statistics inside in Kings Island aren't great. I think we're up at about, in some of the areas it's only at 5.57%. The national averages are well above 60, I think, at this stage. But it's about breaking those barriers and showing them the positive environment that they can come from and the positive things they can achieve. And a real part of that, I suppose, was maybe a few months ago we had assembly. So we do assembly every month and we bring the parents in. It's a huge day for us all. We look at attendance, we look at stars of the week, we look at ethos, which is an award for monthly, and lots of different awards are given. But we brought back in some past pupils just to showcase the positives. There's not enough showcasing done. We don't publicise ourselves very well at Kings Island, but that day was absolutely amazing, and the amount of hits that it got, and we had Live 95 in that day, and the hits they got on social media were phenomenal. So like we've girls that have grown up down in St Mary's Park that have went on, and they're young women as well, like they've gone on there, they're principals of schools. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal. We have Tracy Tobin as a principal up in St Michael's. We've Tori Dillon, who's a principal up in St Sennans. We've Lisa Blackhall, who's actually back working with us, who was in Tuss. Tyrone McGuan. Just there's some phenomenal achievements when we don't analyse it enough and we don't publicise enough. But it's about breaking those barriers down to make it attainable, make it achievable, and these wraparound support models hopefully will come to fruition. They won't come to fruition overnight. You're talking, this plan is 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and we'll see these come to fruition, and hopefully they'll come back and turn around and they'll say, listen, thanks for all you did for us in the school. It definitely gave us a positive outcome, it gave us positive perspectives and gave us a vision of where we wanted to go when we were older.
I think it definitely will. I'd say, looking at Dan, I'd say the pen is going to run dry with all the notes he was trying to take on all the initiatives. You spoke at the start around your work as a homeschool liaison teacher. Was there certain, I suppose, events, you said it was like almost transformational. Was there certain events in that or certain learnings you took from it? Definitely, I would imagine in the empathy building side of things, was that something that was central to it, or was there other aspects of that experience?
Was the role, and it's interesting, my sister's actually going to interview for the position in her school, I think it's Thursday, so I was prepping her for the interview the other day and I was explaining to her, like, huge, it's like, and it is statistically you're supposed to do 33% of your time is supposed to be house calls. Yep. So you're supposed to be out and about meeting people, and I said it is the best way to build a relationship is sitting down with someone on their own couch or in their own sitting room or inside in their kitchen and just having that conversation. And I suppose I was explaining to my sister, you're always there as a supportive role. Mm-hmm. So you're never dealing with behavioural issues, you're never dealing with anything negative, you're always there to support. But like that, I built up positive relationships with people, like relationships that are still standing to this day. And I suppose one that I have, there's two that I always kick back on. I suppose one in particular was a bit of a tragic story. I finished my role as HACL maybe 18 months before, and I was actually in situ in St Mary's working there, and unfortunately there was a tragedy up in South Hill from a little boy who was a 4-year-old choking a cocktail sausage, and unfortunately it was a fatal event. It was interesting, like 18 months I thought I would have been forgotten about, and the parents actually rang me, not that evening, I think it was the day after, and asked me would I call up to the house. And to me, like, that relationship had nearly gone, but they obviously had felt that I'd invested so much in their family over the years. Probably one of the most difficult house calls it was calling up there, but it kind of gave me a sense of gratitude that they really valued me and my presence to ask me to come up. And I suppose another one as well is we had children there. I think they were up the country for 3 or 4 years when I was in my previous school, and they'd left and went in. When they came back down, they found out I was principal of school, still had my mobile number, gave me a call and said, "Oh, and listen, I want to send my kids to your school," even though there was probably about just 7 or 8 schools in between, as I would say. Again, it's that relational value, that positive relationships, to feel that I suppose they can trust in me, trust in what I'm doing within school, and believe in the process is what I'd say. That's a huge one.
So, wow, there's just so much going on there. And do you know, a lot of the time you'd be talking to outside groups, empathy comes up a lot, trauma comes up a lot when you're talking about, you know, people who are marginalised. And a lot of the time I'd be kind of asking, you know, when you're entering a school and you're trying to get buy-in from the principal, there's so many different organisations competing for space. You seem to have made space for all of them. So I don't know where to go next now. Do I ask you about the Children's Grief Centre? Do I ask you about the Social Farm in Doon? Is it the one in Doon?
Doon, yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the Social Farm in Doon?
Because it's an opportunity. Like myself, I suppose all the kids inside the schools were all city slickers. So not a bull's notion of I suppose farms or daily life skills with regards to that. So it's a great opportunity for the kids to go out to their farm. And again, it's all about the process, I suppose. They get to see the animals on the farm, they get to see what they produce, whether it be milk or eggs. There's a social aspect, obviously, there's a fun aspect, which is really important as well. And it normally finishes then back in the kitchen where they're using some of the produce where they've picked up on the farm, whether it be eggs or milk or vegetables, and they get then, I suppose, to look at life skills of. And then, you know, inside the kitchen, all the numeracy and the literacy comes in then, so they're doing their measurements, they're reading their ingredients, their procedural writing comes in and stuff like that as well. So huge opportunity of exposure that, I don't know, where'd you get that exposure when you're inside in a city school? I suppose the closest thing you get is a journey down to Kilkeen when you're going down to the seaside. You're looking at the cows and the sheep inside the field.
Looking out the window on the way down to Kilkeen, yeah.
But it's a brilliant experience for them. And like that, some of the children wouldn't have the opportunity to go to Kilkeen like that. So great exposure to, I suppose, a real life farm and how I suppose food is produced, the processing system that goes into it, and then the life skills I said allude to as well about cooking and having a healthy plate in front of you, natural produce, not looking at takeaways from the famous delicacy that is sticks up the road, but just it goes in to show like the healthy ingredients and what's really important, getting a good balanced lifestyle as well.
So a recurrent theme as well that you've hit on is kind of this upstream approach. When you're talking about South Hill or Kings Island, primary school is where you want to start. You mentioned Limerick Youth Service as well, which I know is a bit later, but I know from my own experience working in Youthreach, Limerick Youth Service is particularly good at being interwoven with other institutions around the city, and you seem to have done that particularly well in St Mary's. That kind of, I don't know, interconnectivity, or are you calling it a wraparound support model? How important is that, or maybe it's just an upstream approach? Like, or I suppose some people, there'd be a stigma of being from the area they're from, and you know, how important is it to combat that at an early stage before they start to kind of behave in some sort of stereotyped way? Do you get what I'm asking?
I get what you're saying. No, it's really important, and it's really important to have pride in where you come from, pride in how you, I suppose, you present yourself, pride in how you, not even how you reflect on your area, and how that appears to the outside and externally is really important as well. I always emphasise that to the kids, I suppose, because there's a bit of antisocial behaviour can go on, and no more so in any other areas. What I'd say regardless of whether you're wearing that school crest, I said you're always representing the school and you're always representing that area. So getting that pride back in is really important, and trying to reduce that stigma is critically important as well. And I think we try that by working with outside agencies like the youth service. The youth service would interact with us, and it's championing people from within the community. That's what makes the difference. And if you look, I suppose, the the most marginalised of communities in Limerick that have done really well at that is Moyross. They're a prime example of championing people from within and showing the growth from within the community as well. And no more so on Kings Island, I suppose. There's a great lad working in the youth service, and he won't mind mentioning him, is Ross Brosnan. And Ross is from the area, he's still living in the area, he's grown up, so he knows exactly what it's about. And for the kids to see him working with the youth until 8 or 9 in the evening, and he goes above and beyond, that's really, really important as well. And no more so the position we have in school is we've an external learning opportunities coordinator role that works with some of the kids until 5 o'clock in the evening, Monday to Thursday. And that role is my past pupil there as well, so Lisa Blackhall, who's currently working with us. But it's really important to champion people from within, empower the community as well. It's all been good having professionals and different agencies working within an area, but it's really important to empower within that. When these agencies step back and maybe services close at 7 or 8, that there's people there willing to carry that on, and having the skills, ability to do that is really important as well.
So up Moyross and hand the parish.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a quote from you, and I can't remember where I got it from because I didn't write it down. You said education equals opportunity. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, I was just doing a business card today for our incoming HSCL teacher, and that's the school motto on the back of our cards. So Perfect. That's exactly where it comes from.
Okay, so how does that philosophy shape, kind of your decisions or how you approach your job in the school?
I think if you're looking to break any cycles in life, the primary function is to have a good, solid education. That doesn't have to happen straight away. And lots of people go back to education later on in life and stuff like that as well. But if you look at any people that have done well in life from any area or any walk of life, they've had a good, solid education, whether it be early years or whether it be latter years. But they've went back to some form of education, and they've mastered some techniques or some abilities to enhance their learning and become better citizens, what I'd say as well. And if you want to be an active citizen in society, you need to have a good solid foundation. That comes from education, and I'm a firm believer that there's ample opportunity now for kids from all walks of life to get a good form of education. And we're blessed, and I don't think people understand how blessed we are in Ireland with the education system. I know we get lots of hits and stuff like that as well, but you can go to primary school, secondary school and tertiary education for relatively minimal costs in comparison to other states, is what I'd say. And again, if you're coming from, I suppose, a single income family or a low income family, there's lots of supports and grants out there as well, so it is very much achievable. I think the biggest issue we have inside in Ireland here is breaking down the barriers attached to institutions. So if you were going from a small, I suppose, highly supportive primary school environment, whether it be a desh school, and going into a secondary school desh environment where again it's heavily supported, coming out to UL is daunting. Even as I said, you Dan, working up here, I suppose when I finished up in UL in 2009, I think it was 7 or 8 buildings. It is a true campus now with all effects. It's a phenomenal, and it's a credit to, I suppose, the education system in Ireland as well, that we have such a major institution here in Limerick. But you can imagine, going from that heavily supportive environment, it's exceptionally daunting. So that's where the accessing programs and the engage programs come into the fruition. We have to make people feel comfortable inside there. We have to support them, and that support doesn't happen just by a transition program. It's a mentoring system, it's counselling systems for people that get overwhelmed. I think we all get overwhelmed when we go back to college, no more so than myself. I suppose when I finished up doing the HDIP, I came back then doing the post-grad school leadership. I think after week 1 or week 2, when you're kind of going, Jesus, there's no way I'll be able to do this. This is completely beyond me. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, you settle down and get in your groove.
Coming into the library to come up here to the studio, sure, you were saying how much the place had changed, and there's always things happening here. And you did say about engage in education. It's a great program. Do you have the Academy for Children? From UL Access Office, you have that in school.
Jackie and the crew are working with us as well.
Yeah.
So again, a great opportunity for the kids to identify areas of interest for themselves, which is really important. Sometimes when you get these broad, bespoke programs, they're kind of saying, listen, X, Y and Z will come to you, whereas the lads come in and they really discuss it with the children, and they get areas of interest and try as best they can to comment up those areas of interest. So we've had architecture, we've had medicine, we've had law, PE, such a broad range as well, and that's what you need to do. You need to showcase that it is, I suppose, a very broad education spectrum out in UL and in TUS and in not so much Mira, I suppose they're more aligned to the educational background, but in the other two colleges
there's drama and the arts as well.
There's drama and the arts, there is, I forgot about them. But the other two colleges, there's very broad curriculums there as well, so there is going to be an area of interest there as well. But again, it's supporting the children when they do take that step into tertiary education, that they're heavily supported, assisted where needs to be as well.
So I'm gonna ask you a little bit about one of the issues you've kind of been campaigning on. So special educational needs, and you've kind of, when you come in there and I introduced you, you kind of said, "Jesus, you make me sound like the mayor," and you you have been, you testified before a Senate committee on a separate issue, which we'll get to, but you've been fairly vocal on, some people call it SEN, some people call it SENI. In the UK, there's another word for it that escapes me now, or SEND. But you've been fairly vocal on this, and SNA teacher allocations or special education teacher allocations. What's the current situation in your school?
Yeah, we're currently having an ongoing battle. So listen, I always say all I want is a fair crack of the whip, and to feel that we're being treated fairly, and at the moment we're not, and that's a simple fact, I suppose. I did my own research. I suppose I would have delved much deeper into than what the NCSE would look into, and had a look around at schools in a similar context as in Limerick City, and proportionally per student we have a lower SET allocation than any other school really in Limerick City that's a DESH school. And I suppose if you look at statistics, and that's what it's all aligned to, you're looking at, I suppose if you look at the NCS allocation, there's 3 different criteria that's assigned to your SET allocation. Number 1, I suppose, is your school cohort, so how many pupils you've got in the school. Number 2 goes on the deprivation of the area that your school is in. And number 3 goes on your standardised test scoring. So I suppose the one big issue we would have had throughout the years, I suppose, is that we had a very small student pupil population in comparison to other schools. We've grown our student population by 80% in the last 5 years, which has been phenomenal. It's been great. The staffing cohort of our general allocation has gone up and aligned with that, which is as it should be, but by no means has our SET allocation grown in that capacity either as well. So at the moment, obviously, we have a huge population with children with additional needs, so we're going through a review process. So currently we have 155 pupils, and out of those 155 pupils, 75 of those children are currently on a school support plan plus, which is the highest supported need that will be needed as well. So currently we have 5 full-time support teachers, and we have, I think, an extra 2.5 hours, but that's comparable to a school, I suppose, on the other side of the city, who would have 10 more pupils than us, but would have 3 more support teachers.
Okay.
So they always come back, and the NCC will come back with, listen, this is the criteria put down, and we won't comment on other schools. I've no problem if it's consistent and fair across the board, but clearly, I suppose the logic model that's involved in this, and whatever, I suppose, formula they put into is not working. It's null and void. We have the highest deprivation in the whole of Ireland according to the HP Deprivation Index. I make comparable scores with our STEM scores with regards to our numeracy and literacy, and they're on a par, if not lower, than the other areas. Then our student populations, I allude there as well, we're up by, I suppose, 80%. So I'll keep banging that drum. I've been told, I suppose, in fairness to the NCSE, we've got an increase in allocation this year. They've told us to go through the review process, so we'll keep on going through that review process. So we're kind of, I would say it was very daunting for the first one, but you get used to it after a while, and you get used to the systems in place. But again, I'll keep banging that drum. I think we're being fielded. There's no parity there. I'm giving, I suppose, it's not an impartial outlook for myself, but I think anyone I've spoken to from a perspective says, and from the NCSE as well, people that work inside the NCSE would agree that we've an unfair allocation, but they will say then it's not their remit to increase it, is what they'll say.
So, not to disagree with you, but to kind of play devil's advocate for the sake of being an interviewer, someone else might make the argument that the ratio in your school might be higher. If you're a school, if the numbers have grown particularly quickly in a short space of time, they'll say, we didn't plan for this because you grew your school too fast. So do you feel like your school is being penalised for growth and success?
No, I said, are we a victim of our own success? We probably are, but at the end of the day, NCSE allocations are done on an annual basis. So I'd have no problem if it wasn't reflected within that school academic year or maybe the following year, because unfortunately the education system in Ireland, it's worked in a bit of a skewed way. So a lot of the time you get your allocations on your previous year's enrolment and your previous year's numbers, whereas we should have caught up some bit relatively now in comparison to other schools, but we're still, as I said, looking at that other school I discussed that would have similar dynamics as well, to have 3 more teachers with 10 pupils just assigned to their SET allocation. It's a huge discrepancy, massive discrepancy, and I said no problem you throwing out the devil's advocate whatsoever, but it just doesn't stack up statistically. That if you're looking at tackling, I suppose you were saying tackling deprivation, tackling unemployment, intergeneration trauma, they always say early intervention is key. And I want to ensure that we get the kids from an early age, the junior infants, the senior infants, and give them that supportive environment and maximise the resource at the lower end of school to ensure that we have, I suppose, a positive outcomes towards the latter ends.
A good foundation is the key to success. I mentioned the hot school meals programme, and you were in front of the Oireachtas. Was it an Oireachtas subcommittee?
No, the Oireachtas committee, yeah.
Yeah.
And hot meals.
And I saw you talking to Joe Nash on the Live 95 about the procurement process being particularly difficult when it was first introduced. I know from my experience working in Youth Reach, when we started feeding the students, it made a massive impact on their behaviour and how they dealt with us, and then knock-on effect is they're learning better and they're behaving better in class. What has it meant for your students?
Yeah, listen, it's not it's a hot lunch. People forget that at times.
Yeah.
I think people are looking for maybe a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and I'm not listening about costing or anything like that or standard. We have to have standards of food, but like I'll stand over and I've named our supplier. Our supplier is the Lunch Blag / Fresh Today, and I'd stand over the quality of food there is good. I said I've been fortunate enough to look at it from both ends of the spectrum this year. My small fella started in a school out the road that have the same supplier. And again, he's a good grubber. Don't get me wrong, he's a good grubber. But like it's the whole process, that educational process of teaching our children to try out stuff, and that's a really important key concept, that they try different foods. So, for example, with Finn, like they can have big hit in the school and in our school as well as the healthy goujons and the Play-Doh cubes. Now, like you can have the healthy Play-Doh cubes and the healthy goujons and Play-Doh. You can have it 5 days a week. So I said to Finn, there's not a hope you're having that 5 days a week. So I said you can have it 2 days a week, and you try out 3 different foods then as well. And he loves that whole process. We log onto the app. It's a very user-friendly app. He's not reading obviously yet, he's in junior infants, so he's looking at the pictures, he's picking out the meals he likes, we're discussing the meals, what he likes and what he doesn't like, and that's really important, that educational piece around it. But I said it's not there to replace a dinner, it's a hot lunch. We talk about, I suppose, wastage is an issue inside the school, but I said some kids have different palates as well, and some kids will just be never suited to these hot meals. But the main thing then is that you have a healthy eating policy in place. Children are bringing in good quality meals, whether it be a sandwich, whether it be fruit, yogurts, to ensure they're not bringing in rubbish food. That's really, really important as well. But overall, I'm an advocate for the hot meals. It definitely needs some tweaks. As I said, in regards to the paperwork and the procurement process, it is it's a minefield is what I'd say. That should be taken away and should be centralised. It shouldn't be a principal's role to be going out and assessing businesses and a business logic model. I suppose, thank God I did business in my prior life, that you'd have some bit of an understanding of the concepts.
Yep.
But you're there actually to look at financial accounts to ensure they're financially practical. You're looking at the organisation, the quality of the food, expect to rate them. And they're allowed to come back and question that rating system then with you as well. So, as I said, I think it would take an awful lot away if it was centrally procured, and maybe even if it was done demographically as well, because I know there's a big issue in some of the more rural schools is getting a supplier because they don't want us, whereas if they're tied in someone about the likes of West Clare or something like that, if you could tie in a supplier to the whole of West Clare, it'd be much more attainable is what I'd say.
So like there's a lot of work involved, you've just described it, in the procurement, and then giving feedback to people who are unsuccessful in their tender, and really a principal is busy enough. You have a lot of wraparound support services there. You're tied into a lot of organisations already, and I suppose it's just another thing on your list to do. You described principals having to become kind of a jack of all trades. Now, I suppose teachers are already kind of required to be jack of all trades, but having all those wraparound support services, having an understanding of intergenerational trauma and stigma, and trying to build the foundation for long-term educational success and resilience for your students. How much of this jack of all trades, how much of it becomes a burden on you personally, and do you have people you can turn to delegate? Do you use a distributed leadership model in the school, or what?
I'm definitely getting better at delegating, because there's no doubt you can't do it all yourself. We've built a really good team around us. Like, I've got a great deputy in Dervla, Ailey inside the office. As I alluded there, we've had a huge change in staff. So we've gone from, when I come in, from 11 staff up to, that was 11 teaching staff, that'll be up to 20 next year. Then we've gone from 5 SNAs up to 10 SNAs, and then the privately paid positions that we do then, so you've your privately paid music therapist, we have a speech and language therapist in 1 day a week, privately paid. We have Lisa in her role as extended learning opportunities coordinator, that's privately paid. We've fundamental workshops with a fella from Docus, John is brilliant as well, he's privately paid. So like the funding you get after the Department of Education, and particularly when our numbers were much lower because it goes in capitation and with the pupils you have, it doesn't cover your costs. So it doesn't cover your costs to put on the light and the heating. And to give you a perception, I suppose when I first came in, the money was quite low inside the school, and like that, the heating was gone for 2 hours a day, and you could imagine what that was doing for staff morale, of staff being cold instead of the kids being cold. Whereas now I'd nearly be telling them to turn it off because it's on too much. But it's small things like that make a huge difference. Well, yeah, distributed leadership, transformation leadership, there'd be two that I would hone in on as well. But it's a huge part of the job is getting funding into the school. So like that, our budget for the private stuff, you're probably talking it's well over $100,000 a year. So trying to get that into the school on top of all the other stuff is really, really important. So devising a strategic plan was really important to show where we want to go with the organisation, what we want to do, and to show, I suppose, the overall vision of the school is, like I said, is education is the key to breaking down these life cycles and to improving those attainment rates and getting kids further on in life to become active citizens inside. That's really, really important. But regards, I suppose as a principal you're expected to do all the HR. That's a big part. The finances are your responsibility. You're expected to do building maintenance. We're fortunate enough, I suppose, we've been sanctioned with a complete M&E refurbishment to the school, which will probably equate to about 10 million. But like that, you're involved in the building process, which you haven't a bull's notion about, you know. And you're expecting, I suppose, the good nature of other people to come on board and give a hand as well. But PR is a huge thing then as well. I suppose getting the good name out there, then liaising with all the different organisations. So delegation is definitely wouldn't have been my forte. There's no doubt about that. We've been kind of not the lone ranger, I wouldn't say, but I would like to have my hand on everything as well. I'm becoming better at that and distributing stuff out and empowering other people in the school community to gain leadership. And I think that's really important, to look at people. And someone said if the deputy went in the morning, would you be lost and stuff? That I probably would, but I'd love to. If she went on and got a principalship somewhere else, that would be fantastic for her as well. And you have to look at that, and you look at the next person in line that you can mould and empower. And huge thing is not just about empowering as well; it's giving them autonomy. So when they have roles within the organisation, that they feel the ability to lead out those initiatives and I suppose to make it their own. And a key thing I've always said at staff meetings is we're open to, as you can probably see, any initiative that has value, impact on the school. And anything that's brought in there and that staff want to be involved in, they're more than welcome to lead stuff out as well. I think that's what happens sometimes in school, where the middle management team or the paid post responsibility are left to take over things, and then you've no leadership then when, I suppose, and you come to, we have had I think 3 or 4 retirements that I've been in the school. Hope it's not a result of me being the principal, but just the aging demographic of the teaching population. But then you want people that have already had roles. So I always say inside, when you go for an interview for a post of responsibility, don't tell me what you're going to do, tell me what you've already done inside the school. So that's really important. It's definitely something I'm improving on, and I suppose I need to keep on improving and keep giving those leadership roles to people within the school.
No, you have a lot of fundraising responsibility to do there, to fund a lot of that privately funded stuff, which is a massive undertaking. And I suppose if you were in a more affluent area, the thing to do would be send a begging letter to the parents. But I suppose in the island, they mightn't have it. So where do you go? Or is that top secret?
No, listen, come here. There's statutory agencies, there's non-statutory agencies. I suppose we've been very fortunate with the funding we've got off ESIF through the Limerick City and County Council. We're involved with a few different charitable trusts that have been very good to us as well. I suppose my key concept when I came in originally was getting 2,000 or 3,000 here and there. Kind of gone away from that mindset. We're looking at kind of multi-annual funding and to plan medium term to maybe 3 years. So like I was offering, someone offered me the last day, said, do you want 24 grand straight up, or do you want 8 grand spread over 3 years? And I said, much prefer the 8 grand spread over 3 years, and it'll give me a greater scope to invest in different programs that have longevity then as well. That's really, really important. But like that, it's kind of a jackpot. Sometimes like I hate honing on the fact that statistics show that it is the most deprived area in the country, but that can help with a funding application as well, and it can have its merits in regards to that. But I would hope in maybe 5 to 10 years time we'll no longer be the most deprived area in the country, that we'll see these gains. And we did see it, I suppose, statistically from the 2016 HB deprivation next to the 2022 one. We've seen gains, I wouldn't say significant gains, but we've seen gains across all spectrums. So the male unemployment rate's down, the female unemployment rate's down, the third level attainment is higher, the second level attainment is higher. But the problem is, I suppose, is there's societal gains as well. So I think that gap, unfortunately, between the most marginalised and the most affluent is actually widening. That's a major cause for concern. And people saying that deaf schools get everything and stuff like that as well. But if you want to break down those stigmas and those barriers, and I suppose those marginalised communities, like unfortunately for Limerick City, like there's huge amount of deprivation. So 7 out of the 10 most deprived and marginalised communities in the country are based in Limerick City. So like if you want to, I suppose, take these areas out of marginalisation, or to I suppose to tighten that gap, you need to prioritise these areas, and you do need to invest in these areas, and you need to invest in these areas heavily in order to achieve outcomes and to improve attainment and to improve life goals for these people as well. So I'll always kick back on that one and say they get everything in Desha. They need everything and more is what I'd say.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you there entirely. And I think Limerick City over the last, is it 30 years now? Are we that old? It's gone through a big change, and I think it's these grassroots community level interventions that are the success of it and driving that change, and we don't want to go back to the way the city was around the millennium. In terms of the various partnerships, the broader ecosystem, the community, the parish, and you mentioned the sense of pride and the importance of that sense of pride, a counter narrative to the stigma, to the idea of you're a girl, you're from that part of town or whatever. Have you noticed kind of a paradigm shift in how people are thinking, or was the pride always there, or is there a sense, I don't know, at one point, I suppose, and I go back to the turn of the century there was definitely a sense of hopelessness from some areas of the city, the young people that lived there, and now I think that's been replaced with a bang of hope. Are you seeing that on the ground?
No.
Are you causing it?
And listen, I'll hope we'll never go back to the start of the millennium where we have, I suppose, Gardaí on the roads patrolling, stopping routes and entries to St Mary's Park and other areas of the city. I think we're far removed from that. Yet we're still behind them. There's still loads to do, but there's so much positivity in there, and I always allude to that as well when I'm talking about either be South Hill or from St Mary's, and there's huge community pride in these areas. So like I live in Corbally, I've lived in Corbally all my life. You know me, I chat to anyone, and I have a great relationship with my neighbours of that, but you don't have that sense of community in these areas. You don't have that sense of pride. They don't know their neighbours as well. They won't stop in for a cup of tea. They've huge pride down there, and we're seeing, I suppose, at the moment there's a bit of an evolution of what's happening on Kings Island. I suppose the mayor has a big draw for us, which is great, and I suppose there's lots happening. So on the island alone at the moment, I suppose we have the Kings Island Flood Relief Scheme, which is a multi-million-euro project that I suppose now will give, I suppose, a bit of peace of mind to the people that were flooded back in 2014. And people are living in fear anytime there's a high tide at the moment, which is absolutely ridiculous. So this will give a real sense of security and purpose to the area. It will give a fantastic walkway around Kings Island, and I said, like, as I was speaking, and we've been at many events, it's not a walkway for the kids and the people of Kings Island, it's a walkway for everyone in Limerick. So it's a huge opportunity now, a generation, as I've said this at meetings with the council, it's a generation opportunity now to open up Kings Island, and particularly St Mary's Park. So that walkway will look onto that amazing facade that is Kings Island, and will look onto the river. But now it's about improving the public realm and infrastructure in St Mary's Park. What are they going to look down on top of? That's really, really important. So we're having a big emphasis now at the moment. I suppose when we went to council a few weeks ago and said it's the opportunity now. We've 18 months before the flood defence is finished. Start getting working on the public realm, and the infrastructure in Kings Island is really important, particularly in St Mary's Park. They have a new community centre which is about to be redeveloped, which is fantastic. The school is getting a refurbishment to the front of the school. We have the FOSS in conjunction with the Mayoral Fund. We're on the Safer Routes to School programme, so that beautiful pencil bollarding that you see in some of the primary schools will be up and running the school in the next few months, I would think. And there's lots of infill housing going in and developments around Kings Island and the broader area as well. So huge opportunity to drive it forward and try to make real significant and lasting change in Kings Island.
It's amazing to hear that, and there's an amazing potential on Kings Island. It actually feels strange for me to call it Kings Island as well. Is it okay to say the Island Field? You
can call it, yeah. you have to be from a bit local to be calling it the Island Field. Listen, Kings Island's the greater now, and sometimes we have a refocus around St Mary's Park, but like we're part of lots of different forums within inside in the school. Like I like to reflect on Kings Island, the greater island, which is really important as well, because I think a lot of the stigma is attached with St Mary's Park, but them to feel part of the wider island is really, really important for me. And
there's been a bit of, like, as a business student, there's been a good bit of kind of rejuvenation, to use a word other than regeneration for once, but there's the brewery there, what's that old cinema called? It's being re-upped. Yeah, and it's a place to kind of go now, and there's people, for a night out or whatever. But there was one of the things, and it used to be said about Moyross as well, like Moyross is about the size of Nina population-wise, and how many businesses are there? How many businesses are in St. Mary's Park, and what would draw you there? You know, because I suppose it is, in terms of marginalisation and isolation, it is an island. So it is easy kind of, well, I don't have any business over there, I don't need to go there for anything, I can just forget about it and all the people that live there. So there's almost a geographic isolation there. And I really think in terms of the, you know, like a place to go for a walk, a place to go for a jog, and the potential of it that way. But do you know, are there any, I can't think of any businesses in St. Mary's Park, or, you know, things that would draw you out there.
Yeah, there's two
Other than
business.
school.
There's two business spaces in St. Mary's Park. There's one is a hairdresser,
Yeah.
and one is kind of a local shop. But bar that there isn't. There used to be, I suppose, originally down in St. Mary's Park there was the 6 shops. So there was a takeaway and other business there as well. But I said, like, you wouldn't have any rhyme or reason to be going down there. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end. So if you go down there, you have to have a purpose to go down there. And I don't think that will ever change as such, because unless you open up, and that's the difference between Moyross, I suppose, and the big aim for Moyross now is to open it up, so to have a true road through it, so you'll have open traffic, so people have a purpose to go through there. You'll have the hospital that will be there fairly soon as well. And then I suppose you're talking about University Avenue and connected up with Woodview, which is a different discussion altogether, which we won't go into.
If the Great Wall comes down,
nothing to do with us. But like that, you have to have a purpose to go there. So like, as I was saying, the way to open up Kings Island and like that, to bring people down there who would never go there, is the walkway.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a beautiful walkway that's going to be lit up, safe, and like my aim, I suppose, is to look at it is to market the properties. Like, I suppose, look at the 3 bridges inside Limerick City. That's a new phenomenon. That only came in since COVID. So like, there's no reason why you couldn't link up the 3 bridges with the Kings Island walkway and then link it up the whole way out to the UL Bankway as well. So you could possibly have up to 10k walkway the whole way around, have it as a tourist trail and open up. But like years ago, people walked out at the Kings Island Bank. They did, but it was locals. So it's a broader concept to open up to everyone. I mean, like that, you have people that come in from the likes of Adair and whatever, and they come in, they park their cars up and they do the 3 bridges. And again, it's a very recent phenomenon, so there's no reason why they can't extend that and bring it on to Kings Island Bank and bring it the whole way around. So it's got huge opportunity if it's marketed well. But as I've sat there with council officials and said, that all, I suppose, it's cognizant of the fact that what are they going to look down on? So at the moment, and I'm fully aware they haven't invested in public infrastructure with regards to roads and stuff because the flood defence are coming in, but there needs to be a huge focus now on the public realm and infrastructure and make it something that looks okay to look down at the moment, because at the moment it looks like Beirut in some parts of it. And if you've got major issues with dumping down there, you've got major issues with dereliction, you've got, I suppose, fences, galvanised steel fences, facade that are up as well, about taking them down and really investing in the area and making it feel worthwhile to look down it, because I genuinely think, and I've said it in front of council officials, it's a generational opportunity with this walkway around. If it's done well and it's done properly, people will use this on a daily basis, and people from all over Limerick will use it, and the tourists will use it as well. So it's a really key opportunity now, and I said it's not as if we're going looking for immediately. We're giving them plenty of notice that flood defence are at a minimum, it's going to take another 18 months, so to get a plan in place to invest in public infrastructure around down there.
Okay, so I normally ask at this point, is there anything we should have asked you that you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm okay. I think I've touched on everything. Listen, I think you can see that the passion and drive I have to make a difference down there. And I said I think we are making a difference down the area. People at Body, I suppose, when I come in as principal, the aim of the school was to break the cycle, and that was to break the cycle of the kids from the area and a lot from St. Mary's Park as well, bypassing the school and going to every other school in the vicinity. And we've done that, in fairness. So the vast majority of the kids living on Kings Island are now sending the vast majority of parents are sending their kids into the school. What I didn't envisage, which has been a real eye-opener for us, we've had a lot of transfers. So we've had a lot of kids in maybe 3rd and 4th class or 2nd class transferring from other schools into our school, some from the area, some from outside the area. And I suppose if any of you kids, I'm not too sure, lads, but that's a huge decision to move your child from one school to the other. It can be it can be very unsettling, and it's a massive decision. But for them to invest that much into the school, to feel that the school is doing so much, that transfer is the best option for a child, that kind of, I suppose, re-emphasises what we're doing is working, and it's to continue that is really, really important for us.
And I just want to say thank you for coming in. The work you're doing it's amazing. It's so multifaceted. You seem to have a bird's eye view of the situation on the ground. It's real grassroots, work, and we'd like to thank you for it. Politics has come up once or twice. If we keep the if we keep the directly elected mayor, you've my vote anyway in the future.
I think I'm too honest with politics. But just to go back on that then as well, like, listen, it's not a single identity about me, it's the team that's in the school is really important. I think all the staff have bought into what we're trying to do, from the SNAs to the caretaker to the secretary. It's a real team effort, and sometimes the laudits kind of and the praise go with the principal. But listen, this wouldn't be able to happen without a phenomenal team that are behind us as well. So hopefully the trajectory keeps going upwards. That's the plan, and hopefully with that our SCT allocation trajectory goes upwards as well.
I'd hate to be the guy that has to tell you you're not getting it.
Normally you only get a letter or an email, so I don't think anyone brave enough to do it face to face.
Eoghan, thank you very much.
No bother. Thanks, lads.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Margins.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow and subscribe on all your usual platforms or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also check us out on our website, aidonthemargins.com, for more info, content and upcoming events. See you soon.